Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone's just up in front. This is your Thursday morning Tottenham news, views and clues update. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things you love. It's a cold day. I'm inappropriately dressed, but we move anyway. Please do me some favours, guys. If you don't mind, hit the like button for me on the video. It really helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And even if you have, can you double check you still are? There's things afoot with the YouTube shenanigans. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic. Just quickly, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who helped me get to 21k. Yesterday, we got over that threshold. It's really cool. The channel's continuing to go from strength to strength. And I very much appreciate all of the attention that you guys have thrown this way over the last 2 years. And we're going to continue, see where we can take it. But thank you to everybody. It's really, really special. Let me start, guys, with the boring, but also a little bit weird and a little bit worrying news. We know Dane Scarlett is back at Tottenham after an unsuccessful, I think is the only adjective you'd call it, an unsuccessful stint at Ipswich. I think he only played 180 minutes, give or take, in an Ipswich shirt. Didn't work out. He's come back and he's training with the first team. Where it gets a little bit weird is all of the ITKs and the aggregators are reporting that Ange actually really appreciates the player and, according to reports, has promoted him to ahead of Alejo Veliz in the pecking order, which I find really, really odd. If Alejo Veliz has been demoted because he's injured and we haven't heard, or at least I haven't seen any updates on his injury yet, that's understandable. Obviously, you're ahead of an injured player in the pecking order, but if he actually just thinks as a like-for-like relative comparison, he thinks that Dane Scarlett is better than Alejo Veliz, and it's worrying for me because if he can't get into the Ipswich team, and he didn't exactly set the world alight at Portsmouth, then why is there an expectation that he's more worthy than Alejo Veliz for minutes in our Premier League squad? And you know what, guys? We are pretty much one injury away. If Richarlison was to get injured between now and the middle of February, at latest, then it would be either Alejo Veliz or Dane Scarlett who will be playing in the 9 role, absent some freak change of strategy where we put a Decky up there or maybe a Brennan Johnson, something like that. But the chances of seeing minutes for a fully fit Alejo Veliz / Dane Scarlett are not that far away. And look, I'll be honest, I haven't seen too much from Alejo Veliz in the minutes that he's had to be that confident that he's the solution. But for sure, I'd have more confidence in him than I would Dane Scarlett, who hasn't done it at either stages of the lower leagues. So to hear that Ange is prioritising him, or pecking order promotioning him, if that's even a phrase, I don't know. Leaves a bit of a strange, salty solution in my mouth. That sounded weird. Forget I said that. Oh, I'll have to cut that out maybe. Yeah, worried about that one, to be honest. And I think if, again, we're just going off of what the aggregators are saying and what the ITKs are saying, but if it's true, does that put a pin in any of the hopes and dreams that we would have to get through later on this window into signing a Santiago Jimenez or one of the other strikers that we are linked with? You know, I'm desperate to see a proper number 9 come in, a number 9 who can play football, not someone who's, you know, having a bit of a purple patch right now, but who, you know, ultimately for me has one of the worst first touches in the Premier League. And I know there's a lot of Richarlison fans out there, and listen, my stance on him was formed long before he came to Tottenham, so this is not a slandering of a Tottenham player. It's just I like the person and not a fan of the player. But he's doing very well at Tottenham right now, and he's very useful, and his inclusion and involvement and continuation is necessary. But I would love Tottenham to go out and find someone who can join up play and who can offer a little bit more as an all-round player than what Richarlison does. And I was hoping that this would happen in this January window. We spent most of the autumn and winter talking a little bit about Santiago, or a lot about Santiago Jimenez. We've looked at Solanke, Ivan Toney, Serhu Guirassy, El Yawahi, even though El Yawahi? Yeah, even though he's moved now, so he's off the table. Loads and loads and loads of strikers have come and passed through my channel in the hope that we were going to make a move. And I wonder and worry now a little bit whether or not that's going to happen. The fact that we're not looking for a new home for Dane Scarlett. Maybe it's all too much and too difficult in the January window. In terms of other signings that are likely to happen or are increasingly likely, the Radu Dragusin saga continues, but it's only day 4. Again, people losing their minds that we haven't got it done immediately. I remind everybody, there's no chance that Dragusin would be available for Friday anyway. So we have at least another 8 days, 9 days until the Manchester United game. And or 10 days, I think it is. And consequently, I think there's enough time to get it done for him to be ready for Manchester United. And I also think that from what I've read this morning, Tottenham now have agreed terms. The price has been sort of agreed. Now it's just around the payment structure. And I think the last few couple of million will be dependent on whether we were to pay more over a longer period of time or less, as a shorter framing of the payment structure. And that's okay, guys. That's okay. It's important to bake that into your thought processes, because every time you overpay by 4 or 5 million on the valuation, or every time you pay more up front to get something done now, to hurry through the negotiations, it leaves you with less money, less wiggle room in not just FFP, forget about FFP for a moment, but in terms of cash flow forecasting. It's the same kind of rationale that I used to kind of remind people of when it comes to paying off contracts. If you pay off contracts, then the player who's waiting to get paid off, unless they negotiate or their agent negotiates a payment plan, then the biggest dent to paying off, like the argument that you're going to have to pay the money anyway, so why not just pay it? Well, because it takes it out of the immediate cash flow. And that cash flow has already been prepared months in advance by the accountants of the football club and the business to have allocated or to have been allocated for other things, for bonus structures, for salaries, for anything else that might be going on in the football club. And so it's not quite as simple as just, and it never is as simple as just saying, just pay the money, get it done, let's move on to the next thing. There's a reason why there's about 50 accountants at Tottenham Hotspur, 50 strategists, if you like, when it comes to finances, because they all have to figure out, if you do one thing here, then what does that mean for the thing we were going to do over there? It's moving parts, and Tottenham Hotspur is a massive company with massive amounts of money coming in and coming out all the time, and so they need to know how to push that sort of money around on a piece of paper, and that's not even including the considerations around FFP and what you might have plans for in the summer, and what you might have plans for, in 2025 season. So I think the Dragusin deal is going to get done, in my opinion. I think we're very close, but the final incidental I's and T's of the contract are far more important and far more time sapping than I think a lot of people give credit. A little bit of patience, guys, we'll get it done. And he'll be ready, hopefully, in my opinion, for the Manchester United game. And on that news, guys, on that front, I know we've got the Burnley game first, and we're going to talk about that on a live stream later on with Saba. We've got a new show that we are starting. We're debuting today. It's called The Standoff. Sava and I, once a week on a Thursday afternoon at 5 p.m. Keep a look out for that. Should be spicy. But we'll be talking about Burnley and other things today. But Manchester United for me is obviously the priority after that. And according to all reports, we've got Mickey van der Ven back for it. He will be back. He might even be back for Friday, according to a lot of the reports that are coming out from ITK. So if we're suddenly looking at a team where you have Bentancur that will hopefully get minutes against Burnley to get his match fitness up, because let's be honest, he wasn't particularly match fit for the Bournemouth game. But you've got a back five of Vicario, Porro, Dragusin, Van der Ven, Udogie, Bentancur, and Lo Celso and Decky, for example, in the midfield three. Maybe they'll go with a slightly different shape because it's Manchester United away. Maybe they'll bring in a Skippy or a Højbjerg. And then up top, you'll have Richarlison, Brennan Johnson. And ideally, by then, guys, a new left winger. But if not, we could still got options. And one of those options, of course, whilst I'm on the news of returning injuries, is Manor Solomon. Here's to you, Manor Solomon. Tottenham needs you more than you can know. Whoa. It's interesting. He's back. Almost forgotten man at Tottenham. And you know what, guys? The other day on a live stream, I was with, I think it was yesterday, was it? Or the day before? Maybe it was Monday. I did the filtering looking for left wingers that have got progressive passes, progressive carries, direct take-ons, one-on-one success rate, crosses of a success percentage that are desirable. We looked through all that briefly until the app crashed. And there was a whole list of about 50 players left out of all of the left wingers in world football. We'd filtered it out to find some new names. And one of the guys that remained, alongside the likes of Mbappe and all that lot, the very best players in the world, one of the names up there was Manor Solomon. So maybe, just maybe, Manor Solomon can come in if he's fully fit and recovering in time for Manchester United. Maybe he's the solution to help us out while Sonny's not going to be here for the Asia Cup. But one other piece of news, guys, is about Jota. And that is the noise that I'm going to bring to you now. Tottenham, according to all of the reports on Twitter this morning, are back in for Jota from Al Ittihad, the ex-Celtic player. Tottenham are looking at him. Now, for me, I see people saying, you know, the wages are going to be too much. He's earning 200 grand a week out in Saudi Arabia. You know, is he going to want to sacrifice that? Are we really going to want to sign him on a permanent deal and have to pay him the similar sort of wages? That would put him above Sonny on wages. I understand that argument, but for me, I think it's a bit of a moot point. I think that any deal for Jota would be predicated on the idea that we would loan him from Al Ittihad as a temporary solution, similar to a Calvin Phillips idea, similar to several things that we're talking about. Before you buy, you need to try to make sure that the player is still up there. And if you get the Jota from Celtic, he's only 24 years old. He's got massive amounts of time left in his career. But if you do get the Jota from Celtic version, then you're going to get a guy who in the last 2 seasons, before he went to Saudi Arabia, scored double digits, both double digits in goals and double digits in assists in his last 2 seasons for a Celtic team. He was incredibly instrumental in the Ange Postecoglou system. He knows the system. He'll be able to fit straight into it and provide a lot of cover, a lot of versatility. He can play off the left and the right, but predominantly off the left-hand side. And I don't think that when you look through his stats, you'll see too many seasons where he hasn't contributed massive amounts. I think at Al Ittihad, in maybe the 11 games he's played in total, I think he's only got 2 goals and maybe 1 assist. So it's not quite at the same ratio, but it hasn't worked out for him over there. I think they've gone in a different direction, that team. So maybe one person's trash is another man's treasure, so to speak. And I think that Jota could do a really, really interesting job. But I don't want to see Tottenham sign him on a permanent deal until we know what version of him is back. You know, do you have a guy that's still got the desire, the hunger to kick on his career? Why did he go to Saudi Arabia in the first place? You have to ask those question marks. You have to ask those questions about players that were young, that had the whole trajectory in front of them and decided to take the money. Players like Ruben Neves, you know, could have been one of the best players in the world in his position, but decided to go to Saudi Arabia. I don't have the same concerns about people going there when they're at the later stages of their career, but to go there early is it's just question marks about that. So for me, if we're going to sign the guy, I think it should be with a loan with an option, and ideally the loan deal wouldn't see us paying the entirety of his wages. The loan deal hopefully would be a situation where we would pay 50% of his wages and bring him in on 100 grand a week. And bearing in mind we've just liquidated or moved Hugo Lloris on and saved 100 grand a week, then on that basis, excluding other players that are coming in, it's a like for like in terms of money on, money off the salary cap. And to me, that's an interesting transfer. I think it might be, you know, a fairly simple one as well. A lot of these other deals we always think of as January being very difficult to get deals done because teams are always looking to replace a player before they can buy a player. It's the Mexican standoff. No one wants to shoot first. No one wants to bring someone in until they know they can move one out. No one wants to move one out until they know they can bring one in. I think with Jota, that might not be the case. Al Ittihad have got enough cover. They've got players that they want in that position, and he's surplus to requirements. So, to me, it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, it's not the... I mean, there's other players on the left wing that I would prefer to see at Tottenham. But But like I say, needs must, a loan with no obligation, a loan with an option, seems perfect for me. And then once you've done that, if you can move Eric Dyer out of the squad and maybe, I don't know if we're going to see or hear about Ivan Perisic maybe moving to back to Croatia to Hajduk Split. Maybe, just maybe, that will also free up a space in the squad, free up some salary as well, and allow Tottenham to look and to go and find that kind of crucial midfield role that we're clearly looking for. And I don't know what to say. There's no real updates on that today, apart from I haven't mentioned it on the walks, but I have mentioned it on a live stream. There is, of course, still that option to go and look at a Morgan Gibbs-White, who, I think for me is a really interesting player. I just don't see Nottingham Forest wanting to liquidate their best player when they're in a relegation battle right now. Also, if they bent us over for Brennan Johnson, what are they going to do for Morgan Gibbs-White? But there's options, guys. There's options. And we're going to talk more about that at 5 o'clock. So that's the news, really, guys. We could be back. We could be almost back to, not far away from having a full-strength defence for the Manchester United squad. Our midfield is looking healthier with Bentancur back. And obviously, we just got to get through the next few games. And in an ideal world, guys, by about the 10th of February, Tottenham could be full strength going into the final 10, 11, 12 games of the season. Exciting times, no? We'll talk more about it at 5 o'clock, guys. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, bye-bye.